Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q4 FY22 post-results conference call of Powergrid Infrastructure Investment Trust, hosted by ICICI Securities. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Rahul Modi from ICICI Securities. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rutuja. Ladies and gentlemen, good day, and welcome to the Q4 and FY22 post-results conference call for Powergrid Infrastructure Investment Trust. Today, we are pleased to host the senior management of the company, represented by Mrs. Seema Gupta, Non-Executive Chairperson, Mr. A.K. Singhal, Non-Executive Director, Mr. Purushottam Agarwal, Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Amit Garg, Chief Financial Officer. The call will begin with the opening remarks by the company, after which we will open the floor for the Q&A session. Thank you. I now hand over the call to Mrs. Seema Gupta for her opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rahul. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope all of you are keeping safe. At the outset, I, on behalf of Powergrid Unchaha Transmission Limited, the investment manager to PG InvIT, would like to thank all the participants for sparing time and joining this call in the middle of a hectic result season. I have with me Mr. A.K. Singhal, Director PUTL, Mr. Purushottam Agarwal, CEO PUTL, Amit Garg, CFO PUTL, and Mr. Sanjay Sharma, Chief General Manager, and other senior officials. Yesterday, PG InvIT announced its unaudited financial results for the quarter ended 31st March 2022 and audited financial results for the financial year ended 31st March 2022 and final distribution for the just concluded financial year FY22, which have been disclosed on both these stock exchanges. A presentation on PG InvIT results has been uploaded on the website and may please be referred to. I do not intend to go through the same slide by slide in the interest of time. PG InvIT currently owns 100% equity shareholding in PVTL and 74% in each of the other 4 SPVs. These 5 SPVs are operational projects comprising 11 transmission lines with a network of about 3,700 circuit kilometers and 3 substations with 6630 MVA transformation capacity. The remaining life of the TSA is about 30 to 32 years. As earlier stated, the trust aims to provide consistent, stable, and visible returns to its unit holder, riding on the assets, which are fully operational and revenue-generating transmission assets, having sound operational track record with high availability, assurance of 35-year contract period under tariff-based competitive bidding mechanism, that is without regulatory uncertainty, and backing of Powergrid, the India's largest and the world's 3rd largest transmission company, as is a sponsor and project manager, and thirdly, the large pool of sponsors TBCB assets, Government of India's thrust on asset monetization, a debt-funded acquisition strategy of PG InvIT provides a distinct advantage. Let us first talk about the distribution. Yesterday, we announced a distribution of rupees 3 per unit, which would be paid to the unit holders during June 2022. This is the 3rd distribution by the trust for FY22, taking into account the first distribution of rupees 4.5 per unit paid out in November 21 and second distribution of 3 per unit paid out in February 22. The total distribution for FY22 adds up to rupees 10.50 per unit for the working period of the trust, that is from 13 May 2021 to 31/3/2022. The latest distribution of rupees 3 per unit is more than 97% of NDCF of the trust, in line with our distribution policy and SEBI regulations, which stipulate not less than 90% of NDCF to be distributed to unit holders. I would like to reiterate that as per our distribution policy, the distribution shall be declared and made not less than once every quarter. For the highlights, we started the FY22 with the initial public offer of PG InvIT in April 21, which received overwhelming response from both institutional and non-institutional investors who participated wholeheartedly in the offering, a first of its kind from a CPSE. Pursuant to IPO, PG InvIT listed on the stock exchange on May 14, 2021 and recently completed 1 year of listing. Post-listing also, the investors have continued to repose confidence in PG InvIT, who have been rewarded with market price appreciation in addition to the distribution by PG InvIT. As informed earlier, the PG InvIT IPO transaction won accolades at global level during the year. Subsequently, pursuant to SEBI's move to change the market lot to 1 unit, PG InvIT has seen participation of individual investors significantly increase from 12.22% at the time of listing to 22.90% as on 31/3/22. We at PG InvIT and Powergrid are humbled by the confidence reposed in us, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank PG InvIT unit holders for their wholehearted support to this new investment vehicle from Powergrid, Maharatna CPSE and the Ministry of Power, Government of India. During the year, we have done some acquisitions. You would be aware that pursuant to the completion of 5 years of commercial operation of PVTL, the trust acquired the remaining 26% equity shareholding of PVTL from Powergrid at a total consideration of 3307.85 million. Further, the trust, through its respective SPVs, also acquired additional revenue accruing on account of change of law to 3 of the SPVs, namely Powergrid Purli Transmission Limited, Powergrid Varora Transmission Limited, and Powergrid Jabalpur Transmission Limited from Powergrid, and on which the sponsor had a right. The additional revenue charges at the rate of 3.445% for PWTL, 2.78% from PPTL, and 5.226% for PJTL are accruing to the respective SPVs subsequent upon approval by the regulator, Honorable CRC, and prudence check by the LTTC. The total consideration paid by PG InvIT for acquisition of these additional revenue rights was rupees 3041.50 million. These acquisitions were carried out with the approval of unit holders and completed on March 31, 2022. The acquisitions were funded by a mix of internal resources and external debt. For the external debt portion, PG InvIT entered into an agreement with HDFC Bank Limited for 7,000 million loan for part financing the funding requirements towards these acquisitions. The loan is a floating rate loan and is below 6% as on date. At the time of our IPO, we had shared that PKTL had filed an application with Honorable CRC with regard to transmission license for the additional work allocated to PKTL by Ministry of Power, Government of India under regulated tariff mechanism. On March 22, 2022, Honorable CRC granted transmission license to PKTL for implementation of 1 number bus reactor at Kalam substation under regulated tariff mechanism. The project, estimated at rupees 427 million, is to be completed within 15 months, that is by July 2023. In accordance with the tariff regulations, the project is envisaged to be funded by 30% debt and 70% equity. As per the prevalent regulations, which are currently applicable till March 2024, return on equity at the rate of 15.5% is allowed on a maximum of 30% of equity infused in the project. Since the project is under regulated tariff mechanism, the tariff shall, however, be decided by the regulator based on the completed capital cost and other prudence checks in accordance with the applicable regulation. On the operational front, for FY 2022, the average annual availability of each of the SPVs exceeded the target availability, thereby earning incentives. SPV-wise, the average annual availability for FY 22 has ranged between 99.12% to 100%. This data is on provisional basis, as the availability certificate for the period January 22 to March 22 are awaited from the respective RPCs. The operation and maintenance of the assets was carried out using safety protocols, and no accidents were reported during the quarter. Our SPVs remain committed to their stakeholders to conduct business responsibly, and as a responsible corporate citizen, they have been contributing to the society under their CSR policies in various areas of national importance. During the year, the SPVs contributed an aggregate amount of rupees 107.95 million to the PM CARES Fund with a view to strengthen the healthcare infrastructure of the country as it remains pivotal for effective response to the existing and new healthcare problems and in handling outbreaks such as COVID-19. Now coming to the financial highlights, for the quarter ended March 31, 2022, the total income on the consolidated basis was about rupees 3786.93 million, which included rupees 3699.1 million of revenue from operations and rupees 87.83 million of other income. For FY21-22 was our first financial year during which we were operational as an InvIT for 10.5 months. During this period, the total income on consolidated basis was about rupees 12,434.13 million, which included rupees 12,173.39 million of revenue from operations and rupees 260.74 million of other income. The other income is on account of interest earned on the CLTD account and surcharge income. Total operating expenses at the consolidated level stood at about rupees 285.94 million for the quarter and about rupees 780.60 million for the year ended March 31, 2022, respectively. The NDCFs calculated at SPV level have been provided along with the consolidated financial results disclosed on the exchanges. The cash flows from the SPVs are in the nature of interest income and dividend income. More than 90% of NDCF of the SPVs has been upstreamed to PG InvIT by March 22 in line with InvIT regulations and the trust distribution policy. The NDCF of PG InvIT for the quarter ended March 31, 2022 works out to rupees 2802.75 million. We have announced a distribution of rupees 3 per unit, which comprises interest component of rupees 1.90 per unit, taxable dividend component of rupees 0.82 per unit, and exempt dividend component of rupees 0.28 per unit. The total distribution amount works out to more than 97% of the NDCF for Q4 FY22 at PG InvIT level, as against at least 90% as stipulated in the regulations and our distribution policy. As mentioned earlier, with this distribution, we have an agreement paid or announced an agreement of aggregate of rupees 10.5 per unit to our unit holders. As on March 31, 2022, PG InvIT had an external borrowing of rupees 5755.85 million, which was raised to part finance the acquisition. Net debt as a percentage of InvIT value as on March 31, 2022 works out to 4.8%, which provides significant headroom for funding future acquisitions entirely through debt. The trust continues to enjoy highest credit ratings, AAA, with stable outlook from all the three rating agencies, namely ICRA Limited, CRISIL Ratings, and CARE Ratings. Trade receivables excluding unbilled as on March 31, 2022 stood at rupees 1621.33 million, equivalent to 40 days of billing. Now, in the immediate future, PG InvIT intends to acquire Powergrid remaining 26% stake in Powergrid Kala Transmission Limited, which shall be completing 5 years of its commercial operation on 12th July 2022. The acquisition process would include valuation by an independent valuer in accordance with the InvIT regulations and shall be dealt with in accordance with the PG InvIT governance framework and applicable policies, including policy on related party transactions. Further, during the year, we also look forward to new acquisitions from our sponsor Powergrid, which under National Monetization Pipeline has been assigned a target of monetization of about rupees 7,500 crores for FY22-23. It may be recalled that the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, while granting approval to our sponsors for monetization of its 5 SPVs through the InvIT route, also permitted the sponsor to monetize through the InvIT route its other CB SPVs as per the directives and targets fixed by the Government of India. Accordingly, we believe that as and when our sponsor intends to monetize such SPVs, we as a ready investment vehicle of the sponsor stands to be benefited as a preferred route of the monetization. As and when there is further development in this regard, we shall keep you updated. Apart from these, we are also open for opportunities outside of Powergrid in the power transmission sector. Regarding the guidance, there has been a persistent demand from our investors that we should provide distribution guidance in line with the industry practice. You will recall that during the last call, I had promised that we would look into your request. So as a responsible corporate entity, we have heard you and we are happy to share that for FY22-23, we expect to maintain a similar distribution as made in FY22. Thank you. And now I would like to hand over to the moderator for further proceedings.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Swarnim Maheshwari from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon and thanks for the opportunity. So at the outset, many congratulations to the entire team for its very successful maiden year and a strong deliverance. Before I just start the question, one clarification. Seema, ma'am, you just mentioned towards the end that guidance for FY22 is similar, for FY23 is similar to FY22. So should we annualize 10.5 rupees or is it 10.5 for FY23 also?
Guidance means we can annualize FY22 results.
Yeah, so that stands at close to about 12 rupees.
Yes, it's in the similar order.
Okay, all right. Thank you. My first question is, just wanted to better understand from you about the growth opportunities. So you mentioned about the growth headroom that we have and everything. And PGCIL has already indicated that the monetization is likely to be back-ended, more closer to Q3, Q4, more closer towards Q4. So in interim, are we looking at any other inorganic growth opportunities? And also the fact that it is still not decided that the monetization will be directly beneficial for PG InvIT because there could be a bidding route also. So how do we look at that aspect as well?
Actually, as I said in my presentation, in the second quarter, we are looking to acquire the 26% stake of the PKTL, which will be completing 5 years of its commercial operation. So that is in the second quarter. And as and when Powergrid comes, and based on the strategy Powergrid adopts, we would be there for it. And as I also said, we are open to the other opportunities available in the transmission sector in the market.
Yeah, so are there any opportunities at the moment, ma'am? Just wanted to understand that. Are we bidding out for any assets such?
That we will disclose at an appropriate time.
Okay. And are we also looking at some sort of a greenfield project? Because we do have as per the SEBI guidelines, we do have up to 10% of AUM could be invested in greenfield also. Are we also looking for that at the moment?
Not in FY22-23. But the only greenfield project or the brownfield project which has been assigned to us is the implementation of that work which has been assigned to PKTL on the regulated tariff mechanism.
This is for Kalam, you are saying?
Yes, yes, Kalam.
Okay. Got it. And just one bookkeeping question. What was the total incentive income for the quarter and the year?
Yeah, just a minute. I can give you the incentive figures for the quarter was 120.47 million. And for the year ended March 22, it was 394.20 million.
Got it, ma'am. Ma'am, I have more questions. I'll get back in the queue. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit from CPBIB. Please go ahead.
Thanks for this opportunity and congratulations on a strong performance. Just one question from my side is if you can just clarify what is the quantum of cash balance at a consolidated level at the InvIT and the SPVs and your plan of sort of using it going forward in the next year as well. Thank you.
Just a minute, let me check the details. The cash at the SPV level as on 31st March 2022 is about 2464.13 million, and at the PG InvIT level it is about 2804.46, out of which 3730 million has already been approved for distribution for this quarter. Rohit, is it?
Understood. And the balance cash is something that you're going to retain for operational sort of working capital?
Yes, those are required to make the day-to-day working capital requirements at the SPV level, but at the trust level, we will not be having much cash.
Understood. And could you provide a bit more color on the new acquisition piece as well? I know you spoke about it in your commentary earlier, but in terms of quantum as well as the timing and as well as the pricing and the quality of assets that the InvIT will look to acquire, especially from PGCIL.
Yeah, actually, as per the National Monetization Plan, Powergrid has been assigned a target of 75 to monetize 7,500 crore in FY22-23. So that we are looking forward to, and which they intend to do in the later half, it is Q3, Q4. So we will be looking towards it. And secondly, in the July, in the second quarter, the PKTL would be completing its 5 years of operation. So their balance 26% equity stake held by our sponsor, we would be looking for that acquisition in this year.
Got it. Thank you and all the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mohit K. from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am. Few questions from my side, ma'am. First is the CC has approved the sponsor asset monetization through InvIT. Has this approval came through? Of course, I can see in the slide. Just want to confirm that because you haven't seen anywhere in the news. And secondly, as we move to FY24, I understand that the PGCIL, the total quantum monetization is 150 billion, and 150 billion is not possible without the cost plus asset being monetized. So is there any cabinet approval required for that particular set of asset? And is there anything in the works which you can update?
So actually, that depends upon the Powergrid. So I may not have the ready-made data with me what stage it is, but we are aware that there is a monetization pipeline, and which they intend to go ahead for FY22-23 in Q3, Q4.
Okay, understood, ma'am. Secondly, at what rate we have...
As I said in the presentation, while approving the last year's asset monetization, they have been allowed to monetize their other TBCB SPVs.
Okay, so there is no other approval required for monetizing this 75 billion of asset or TBCB asset. Is that understanding right?
Appears to be, but I think the Powergrid would be in a better position to answer this
Understood, ma'am.
with authenticity.
Secondly, at what rate you have tied up the debt of 5.8 billion, and what is the kind of interest rate you believe that you'll be able to tie up for this 75 billion acquisition if it goes through?
I think you're talking about the interest rate of the loan we have taken.
Of the debt. Debt which you have taken for acquiring the asset.
Yeah, we have tied up with the interest rate of about 3 bills, 3 months T-bill plus 194 basis points, which was set based on the T-bill rate at that time, because the final value was 5.75 floating interest set on a quarterly basis.
And what's the tenure of this debt, ma'am?
Yeah.
What is this the tenure of this debt? Tenor of this debt?
16 years.
Oh, that's a very good rate. My last question is, while you have guided for NDC for the distribution, can we assume that fairly the distribution will be similar like FY22 in terms of dividend and interest, or it can be different?
See, we can't give you a breakup and split right now, but overall it will be in a similar type for FY23 as FY22.
Okay. And is there any chance, ma'am, you'll also think of returning some capital, which will be tax-free?
Yeah, we can think about, but it all depends on what is the interest payout and all loan. And we can think about the capital payment, but not in FY22-23.
Understood, ma'am.
In the subsequent years.
Understood. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And all the best, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sarvesh Gupta from Maximal Capital. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am, and thanks for taking my questions. So first question is your NAV of 101, around that number. Now, if you were to adjust it for the acquisition prices that you are going to pay, in general, that what you are paying for the remaining stake, then what should be the NAV adjusted for the acquisition of the stake?
No, actually, this will depend upon the acquisition price based on the valuation done at that particular time. So it will be worked out at that stage.
Okay. So just to answer a question this differently. So for example, you have spent like 350 odd crores for the balance 26% stake. So what sort of an IRR was there in this acquisition? Because you would have calculated, right, for the balance stake, what is the sort of benefit that you are getting since you are calling it as value accretive?
I can ask my CFO to answer this particular question. Amit?
Well, sir, the IRRs are expected to be in the similar range as they were at the time of the IPO. The basic methodology for working out the acquisition price obviously was based upon the valuation done and the negotiation which we had with the seller. And you may also view it as a composite deal which consisted of acquisition of 26% stake in Vizag on one hand and acquisition of change in law for Parli, Vadodara and Jabalpur. So 330 for Vizag and 304 crores for other three SPVs. So if you look on a consolidated basis, we raised the debt at around 6% at the time when we negotiated the deal. And obviously, the margin which is available is going to add to the kitty of the unit holders. So the remainder is obviously going to be creating value for the unit holders.
So maybe 9-10% is what you're getting and 6% is what you're going to pay for this.
Maybe 10% is too ambitious a figure, but yeah, obviously there is some margin available with us to further smoothen our yield to the investors and elongate the same.
Okay, so maybe 8-9% versus 6%. Is that a right way to think about it?
You can assume so, but kindly also bear in mind that the interest markets have been volatile of late, and obviously the margin will depend to a large extent on how the rates are moving.
Yeah, of course. Well, if it is 6%, then maybe a 3% accretion has happened. Is that a right way to look at it?
Maybe 200 to 250 to 300. I mean.
Okay. And for the additional revenues acquisition from the SPVs, it should be similar. Should it be similar?
Similar.
Okay. Understood. And this question of PGCIL assets, given that it's a government asset, so do we have anything as per any of the laws that we will be preferred, or we have exclusivity or anything of that sort, or it should be, given that it's a government asset, it should be bidded in a transparent manner for every InvIT or anybody who wants to buy in India?
From the PG InvIT side, we can say that the Powergrid has created this trust as a special monetization. So we should be the preferred. But what route they will decide, it only depends upon when the Powergrid comes out with its strategy of monetization of assets in FY22-23. So we are only hoping that we'll be the preferred vehicle for monetization of its assets.
But they are not under any compulsion, under any law, as to divest it necessarily to you. They can divest it to the higher bidder if they want so.
That depends upon the call they take at the time of monetizing their assets. It's the call which Powergrid has to take.
So Powergrid hasn't taken any call on that?
As far as I know, not yet.
Okay. Understood. And then, since we have made these sort of yield accretive acquisitions, 600 crores already and recently, and then maybe 300-400 crore more coming up in the coming months, then why is the distribution guidance kept at the same level? Because these will all be, if you are spending 1,000 crores at 200, maybe 250 basis point, you are getting 25 crores additional, which is on a per unit basis, maybe, any additional 25 paisa or something. So why is the guidance kept at the same level?
The guidance, it depends upon the type of results we are expecting for this quarter. It is not yet finalized, but it is in the range of what we have distributed for FY22. So as we proceed quarter to quarter wise, and what is the position, but as you must have seen, for FY22 also we have distributed more than the what is required as per the regulation. So right now also in this quarter we have done 97%. In case at the end we have more, so accordingly the quarter-wise distribution will be worked out.
Understood, ma'am. Thank you and all the best for the coming quarters.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Marathe from ICICI Prudential Pension Funds. Please go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations, ma'am, on the good set of numbers. So on the borrowing side, we have taken a floating rate loan. So in a rising interest rate scenario, how do we see borrowing on a floating rate basis, as we can see higher interest outgo in future?
No, actually, as you have seen that only lately this has become volatile, and presently the loan book of PG InvIT is very less, 575 crores. So going forward, as and when the market situation depends, we will decide our strategy of raising the debt. So we do not foresee that it will have a lot of impact on the overall returns to the unit holders.
So we have a policy that we will have a certain percentage of our debt in fixed and certain in floating. Do we have such a borrowing strategy in mind?
Actually, we would like to have a diversified portfolio for our debt raising. Since it was the initially and we were first time testing the waters, so we went for the borrowing from the banks. But going forward, as more acquisition comes, we will be working out the strategies to have a diverse portfolio for the debt.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, reminder to the participants to ask a question, please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Mohit K. from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity once again. My first question is, what was the discount rate used to arrive at the valuation at which we've acquired the assets? I'm talking about the compensatory tariff asset and the 26% which you acquired the last fiscal.
Valuation. It will be there in the valuation report. Have you attached the valuation report? Yeah, I think discounting indicated considered in the for the acquisition was there in the valuation report of the valuer.
Sure. I'll go through, ma'am. I'll go through. Thank you.
Yeah.
So secondly, how much of our receivables is greater than 45 days?
Yeah, I can give you an idea about the table. कहाँ गया? Table कहाँ है तुम्हारा? Trade receivables are 43 days. 43 days as of March 22. Which was, I think, in the quarter it was 45. The average collection period is 43 days compared to 49 days as on 31st December 2021 and 60 days as on 30th September 2021.
Ma'am, our collection as per our contracts is due in 60 days or 45 days?
Yes. And sometimes if they delay more than that, there is a surcharge applicable to the late payment. So we are being given the surcharge also in case they do not pay in time.
My question is that we had a contract, we had agreement which was signed I think few years back, when the prevalent the agreement was that you need to pay surcharge beyond 60 days. So you see 60 days has been brought to 45 days in line with the current regulation, which is for CERC, or it is still 60 days?
It has brought down because actually the transmission charges, whether for RTM projects or TCP projects, are considered in the POC mechanism, which are collected by CTU, and proportionately they give it to all the licensees, and TBCB is one of them, and all 5 SPVs are among that, and the payment for period has been brought down to 45 days from 60 days.
Understood. Ma'am, what is our exposure to J&K in terms of receivables? And is there something which is due from J&K which has not been paid till now?
Actually, we don't have individual debtors because our entire collection comes from the CTU. So what are the outstandings, the state-wise is that of CTU. We are not billing individually to J&K or J&K.
Understood, ma'am. Lastly, ma'am, are we looking at a foreign currency debt and hedging it? Does it make sense for you, or do you think it's a non-starter?
I think right now we are looking for the domestic loan for FY22-23, but nothing can be ruled out for the future depending upon the market situation.
Understood, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. All the best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Nikhil from Galaxy International. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Ma'am, I just wanted to understand what could be the revenue DPU guidance for next year, FY22-23. Sorry, I joined a little late, so I may have missed your early part if it was already shared.
Yeah, it was shared. Actually, it will be in the same line, similar distribution what we have done for FY22. So that is the guidance we are sharing with our investors and with our unit holders.
Yeah. So FY22 we will have 10.5, right? So 3 per quarter for the last 2 quarters and 4.5 for the first 6 months or so. So would it be kind of 3 per quarter, let's say, which is the last 2 quarters it has been there, or would it be 4.5 for the 6 months?
Actually, for 4.5 for 6 months, because the half year started on 13th of May 2021. So the
Right.
last year's yield we can analyze, and we look forward with the same in FY23.
Right. Right. Sure. Okay. Fair enough. And just a little bit on, let's say, what are the plans for growth for the organization? Because I see that there is a lot of pipeline, and you are already bidding also through with Powergrid itself. So how do you estimate that our AUM would look like, let's say, 3 years down the line? Yeah.
Actually, we can talk about the 3 types. One is that one of our SPV, PKTL, is completing 5 years of commercial operation in July 22. So their balance 26% stake, we will be looking forward to acquiring it by that time. That is number one. Secondly, under the National Monetization Plan, Powergrid has been assigned a target of 7,500 crores in FY22-23. So, and which in their investor they have announced that they will be taking such activities in Q3, Q4. So we are looking forward towards acquisition as and when Powergrid sponsor comes out with this monetization of assets. And thirdly, we are also open to acquiring the assets in the transmission sector as and when it comes through.
Right. So any thought process on, let's say, where do you want to reach, let's say, by FY25 or so, or is it like based on the opportunities that will keep on coming?
Yeah, actually, the first and foremost, the sponsor has a very strong pipeline, and their monetization targets have also been set for 5 years. So the next year they have a target of 15,000 crore, like 23, 24, and a year after that also 15,000 crores. So there is a lot of assets will be available in the market.
Right. So there is no dearth of opportunity. The only thing would be how much we are able to take, right? So depending on our balance sheet strength and other things. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Fine, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Anirudh Singhi from Dalal and Barocha. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. So as you mentioned to a previous participant, you'll be looking at a yield of 8 to 9% for new assets, right? But our cost of borrowing is going to be floating. So in a rising interest rate scenario, if the cost of borrowing goes up by 200, 300 bips, it would add to our DPU, right?
Actually, the voice was not very clear. What I understand that right now the interest rate we have taken is 5.75, and since the going forward the market is volatile, and but as I said earlier, this 575 crore portfolio constitutes a very minuscule component in an entire portfolio. So it may not have much impact unless until there is a drastic change in the interest rate regime.
No, so I'm talking about future assets. So future assets would be funded by debt, right? But our yield will be fixed. Hello?
Yeah, then the acquisition price will take care of those interest rates in the market, and the valuation would be done accordingly.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sarvesh Gupta from Maximal Capital. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, thanks for follow-up. Just one question for the CFO is, if we were to take a, slightly lumpy sort of a loan in today's market, in a fixed rate loan, then what sort of pricing would we expect? Let's say if we were to raise 1,000 crore through debt, what sort of a fixed rate loan pricing for a long tenure, 10 plus years, can be expected for us?
Well, sir, if you see our current loan, which we took from HDFC Bank Limited, it is also quite a lumpy loan in the sense that, about 47.5% of the principal is due at the fag end, that is at the end of the 16th year. So the way we have structured the current loan is that for the first 3 years, it will be annual outflow of 0.5%, and then for next 3 years again 1%, and from next 3 years it will be 2%. So it is quite a lumpy loan in itself. Now, if you talk about, say, a loan which will be payable, say, at the end of 10 years itself, so I think the margins will be adjusted by the banks accordingly. And as a matter of fact, banks are generally averse to lending fixed rate loans for long tenures. So maybe the NCD markets or the capital markets will be something which we'll be looking for. And we hope that maybe a margin of 100 to 125 bips over the floating will be something which market can offer us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was useful.
Thank you. Participants who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. As there are no further questions, I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Rahul Modi for closing comments.
Thank you, Rutuja. I would like to thank the entire senior management of PG InvIT for this detailed call. Thank you once again. I'll hand over the call to Mrs. Seema Gupta for a closing remark. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul. Thanks once again to all the participants for attending this call. As always, it's very heartening to see a very good participation in PG InvIT's earning calls, and today was also no exception. We believe that with our strategy to achieve a focused business model with operational efficiency, while capitalizing on value accretive growth through acquisition and an efficient capital structure, we should be able to provide consistent, stable, and visible returns to our unit holder. Thank you. Thank you once again. I hope you will continue to have confidence in PG InvIT. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of ICICI Securities, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.